We're all looking for it, right? That feeling, that sense of truly belonging. But what if I told you the secret isn't about finding some perfect magical group? What if it's actually about creating a space where you don't have to pretend to be someone you're not? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful idea for building exactly that kind of community. So let me ask you something and be honest. Have you ever been in a group, maybe with friends or colleagues, and just felt you couldn't really be yourself? Like you had to put on a mask, say the right things, laugh at the right jokes, just to fit in? Yeah, that feeling, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Because what if there's a better way? What if you could find a place where you don't have to hide? In this explainer, we're going to walk through a simple but really powerful idea for building that kind of community, a place where you can finally take that mask off for good. Okay, so our story today really starts with someone who felt this exact same way. They described it as feeling suffocated in groups. And it was their search, their deep need to find a real place to belong, that led them to the incredible insights we're about to dig into. So they were reading this book, Life Together, by a theologian named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And bam, they were hit by this one simple but really profound question. And this single question set them on a path that led to some, honestly, pretty surprising discoveries about what community is really all about. All right, so the first big aha moment was about support. How we help each other in a community. The author calls it grace. And they realized that this grace, this support, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. It can look totally different for different people. And that's not just okay, it's actually crucial. Think about it like this. For someone who's physically far away, maybe support looks like a thoughtful letter or sending them a book that you know they'll love. But for someone you see every day, it might be sharing a meal or just having a deep conversation. The form is totally different, right? But here's the kicker. The value of that support is exactly the same. It's all grace. And this idea led to an even deeper question, one that was sparked by this really beautiful but kind of strange metaphor for what an ideal community is like. So Bonhoeffer quotes Martin Luther, who said this. At first glance, the author was like, wait, what? Roses and lilies? What on earth does that have to do with community? It seems totally random. But they had a feeling it was important, so they didn't just skim past it. They really stopped and thought about it. And here's the insight they landed on. It's not about gardening, obviously. It's about seeing a true community for what it is, a rare, beautiful, precious gift. It's not just a get-together or a social club. No, it's something special, something that's alive and, well, it shines. So what makes it so beautiful? What's the secret sauce? This is it. This is the heart of the whole thing. The true beauty comes from one thing, the freedom to live without pretending, the freedom to just be you. A place where you can be totally open, honest, even vulnerable, and you don't have to hide a single thing. Okay, but if that's the dream, why is it so hard to find? Why are communities like that so rare? Well, the answer comes down to one single massive roadblock that we all face. Our deep, deep fear of being judged. And this fear, it creates this nasty, toxic cycle. It all starts with that little voice in your head, right? What if they think I'm weird? What if I offend someone? So what do? You stay quiet. You keep your thoughts to yourself. And that silence, even when you're in a room full of people, it leads straight to feeling completely and utterly alone. So, how do we break out of that trap? Well, the solution is actually pretty simple. I mean, it's not easy, but it is simple. And it's incredibly powerful. It all comes down to one fundamental shift in how we interact with each other. Instead of getting ready to judge or to correct or to give your opinion, you just listen. That's it. You offer a non-judgmental ear. And when you do that, you create a sense of safety. And in that safe space, people feel like they can actually open up. And that openness, that's where real connection happens. It's the complete opposite of that fear cycle we just talked about. And listen, this is so important. Because when you judge someone, it doesn't just hurt them. It actually traps you. It puts you in this little bubble where you're always right and everyone else is kind of wrong. And when you're in that bubble, it becomes impossible for you to be the kind of person that other people can ever truly trust. All right, so this all sounds great, in theory. But how do we actually do this? How do we make it happen in the real world? Let's get practical. Let's talk about building this in your own life. Now, the author talks about group culture in Japan as an example, but honestly, this is something we can all relate to no matter where we live. You know that pressure, the pressure to match the group's vibe, that feeling that if you don't quite fit in, you're being judged, and that very real fear that if you don't conform, you might get pushed out altogether. This brings us to a really crucial point, and it's so empowering. If you are in a community that makes you feel like you have to lose yourself to belong, if it forces you to be someone you're not, it is 100% okay to leave. Let me say that again. You have permission to walk away. But, and this is a huge but, there's a really important warning that comes with this freedom. If you do leave and you decide to start something new, you have got to be so careful, because the second you start criticizing or bad-mouthing the old group, you've just become the judger. You become the very thing you were trying to get away from. And that brings us to this final, really simple, beautiful idea. Building a real community, it's not some huge project. You don't need 100 followers or a big event. It can start so much smaller than that. It can start with just 2 people. Just you and one other person who's also committed to this idea of listening without judgment. So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this final thought. Creating that space of true belonging, it turns out it's not about finding the perfect group. It's about being the person who creates that safe space for someone else. So the real question, the one I want you to walk away with, is this: who will you be that person for?